Here we are. The new year has begun. Happy New Year, 2023. Here we are. And of course, I have to say, I was quite surprised about the amount of people emailing me about the topic which they wished for the first episode of this year. And many people still talk about New Year's resolutions and why they work or do not work. And they had questions if they do work. And let's face it, we're going to talk about them today. However, it's going to be pretty straightforward. And most likely you will hear a couple of things you didn't expect me to say, because many people will now sit here and think, well, it's the new year. It's the first episode of the year. So there will be something that inspires me to strive for excellence, yada, yada, yada. Sorry, no, ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. We're going to be very straightforward how to start a year properly. And first message here is New Year's resolutions do not work. Full stop. And there's a reason for that. And maybe you know these situations. New Year's resolutions do not work. It's repetitive. It's always the same. Just look around you. How many people say they want to join the gym, do more sports, eat healthier, stop smoking, stop drinking, whatever else? And the effect is always the same. You start with a very frustrating moment into the new year because you will most likely realize many people do not stick to their New Year's resolutions except for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, if at all, most likely shorter. And after that, very surprisingly, many people show a behavior about which they complain, even with leaders in their organization where they work. So people stop talking about the New Year's resolutions. They stop talking about the goals. They stop talking about anything they plan to do for the year. They just continue. They just move on as they did in the year before. So you start with a very frustrating 2023. And when you now think, wow, Niels, that was Germanic. Sorry for that. As you can hear by the charming accent, I am German. However, I'm recording this right now in London. I am in London until nearly mid of January. So we need to know how to do it better. And we're going to talk about how to do it better. But first, of course, we have to know, when I say New Year's resolutions do not work, why is that? Why does that happen? Why do people every year say New Year's resolutions, here we go, and a week later say, well, sorry, that was pointless? So New Year's resolutions do not work mainly due to 3 reasons. Reason number 1 is arbitrariness. A new year is completely arbitrary. And of course, some will now claim, no, it's not. New year happens only once per year. Wow, that's great news, isn't it? So when you say the new year is not arbitrary, here are the news. And some people working in different industries will know how arbitrary it is, because it is not the new year. I just give you one more example. 22nd of January is going to be Chinese New Year. And of course, many of you might now say, well, that doesn't affect anyone, does it? So first, look at the amount of people living there. It affects countless people. And when you work in any industry that is relying on import, export, or any kind of contact to China or any area in any region in that area, you most likely will work pretty hard at the beginning of the year, because you know, as soon as Chinese New Year begins, and now it depends in which industry you work. Some people say we have an interruption of the supply chain for a week, some say for a whole month. So it is massive. What happens is on January 1st, a new month begins, and we have that surprise every single month. It's not special. It's completely arbitrary. It's basically celebrating another beginning of XYZ time interval. You could say, oh, happy new Monday. You're not going to say that, and you will say it's not very emotionally tangible to do that. But neither is a new year. It's completely arbitrary. I know this does not sound very festive. And I can understand that, of course, some industries thrive on having these moments, the events industry, the hospitality industry, very important industries. And we all love to have, or most of us love to have a good party, including me. But arbitrariness is never a good reason to start something. Just imagine if the organization you work in announces right now, or they announce on January 1st, from this day on, we all going to wear green shirts. And you ask, excuse me, why? And then someone from the board says, yeah, because we decided it's the year of the green shirt, and January 1st, New Year's resolution and stuff. So we all wear green shirts. And without a proper reason, people will not follow this command. So reason number 1 why New Year's resolutions do not work is it is completely arbitrary to do them. So you need to know What is the reasoning? What is the motivation behind it? And reason number two why New Year's resolutions do not work is peer pressure. Many people ask you, what are your New Year's resolutions? And let's face it, as you know, I am Northern German, so I'm not really keen on having other people's opinion up my private life or into my private life. So when people say, what's your New Year's resolutions? I say, I don't have any. And then they look at me slightly disturbed. And then someone makes the good old joke, oh, you can't be disappointed when you don't have New Year's resolutions, right? Yeah, hardly have that couple of thousand times in the last 2 weeks. I don't follow arbitrary rules. And the reason is because I looked into science. And I know this sounds incredibly boring, but the good point about it is it works. When peer pressure just look into your life, look into moments where peer pressure made you do something. And in the vast majority, if not all cases, you will come to the conclusion it was not great to do that. When you hear stories which begin with peer pressure did make person XYZ do that, it normally doesn't end well. So rule number one, why New Year's resolutions do not work is arbitrariness. Reason number two is peer pressure. So reason number one, arbitrariness. Reason number two, peer pressure. And reason number three is that your goals are not specific enough. When people say eat healthier, do more sports, go to the gym or join a walking group or whatever else, this is not specific enough. So if you want to set a goal, which by the way is the reason that even organizations led by highly qualified people often struggle to do so. So first, you need to know the situation. You have to do a complete analysis of the problem, of the situation in which you are. Then you have to determine a goal, which has different layers, different levels, different aspects. I'm not going to get into that. Then you need to agree on the steps to achieve this goal. You need a plan for that. You need the resources for it, people, time, whatever else. It's a lot of work. And saying, join the gym. It is... Maybe you heard the line, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's these one-liners never lead to anything. And by the way, it has, and still you could say, well, I just do it for fun and no one cares. It has severe consequences when you do that. And also when you're a leader right now and listening to this, be aware that you most likely have to talk to some of your employees because they will have New Year's resolutions. Then they see that their plan wasn't great. And then they can fall into a deep, deep hole because they are very frustrated because they always think others are successful, I am not. And you should catch them and help them on the way. Because what happens is we suddenly show, some people suddenly show, many people suddenly show behavior that they complain about with their leaders. They just shove out a couple of excuses. Then they become very silent. Then they don't talk about anyone. Then they continue as if nothing ever happened. So they do exactly the same they did the year before, but they expect that way more is going to happen as a result, which of course it will not. When you set a goal, there must be a very strong motivation and reasoning behind it. What is the reasoning? What is the motivation? What's the point why you do it? That's what you need to know first. And even after that, just being the motivational person saying, oh, I want to lose weight, whatever else it is, I want to eat more, I would want to eat healthier food. It's not enough, because when you set a goal with everything I've told you up to this point, you have to follow it up. You have to plan with failure, because no plan ever, hardly any plan ever works to 100%. Then you need to show patterns of behavior that are adaptive to the situation, which is called a situative problem-solving competence. And this situative problem-solving competence heavily relies on how well your plan and your preparation was in the first place. And many people said, yeah, well, I wanted to join the gym. Well, what a plan here. So you see, this is not a motivational, inspirational podcast at the moment. So just here's the most important piece of advice I can give you for 2023. No matter what you plan, no matter what you think, no matter what you want to do in this year, here are just a couple of aspects I tell you which will help you to at least avoid the worst failures. So step number one, step away from any kind of pseudoscience. If someone makes a wild claim and there is no valid and reliable data, no scientific backing, no scientific publication about it, most likely it's made up. It's not working. Someone is going to sell you something. They coast off with the money and you are left behind with not having achieved your goals. Then they offer you the next level and you pay until suddenly they just spit you out of the system and say, that was it. Thank you. All my offers here. All pseudoscience, nothing worked. And then you start to do the self-blame and say, well, others became successful with it. why didn't I become successful with it? Well, surprise, no one became successful with it. There is a reason why you do not see the senior executive board members at motivational, inspirational events. And that's the second hint I give you. Stay away from anything motivational, inspirational, no matter if it's memes or videos or events or believe in you, Chumbawamba. It doesn't lead to anything. And I know this might sound frustrating, and most likely it does. But there is, by the way, the same applies, and that's hint number three. As soon as someone claims to know it all, often called professional speakers, especially when people say, oh, I don't do consultancy or training, I only do speaking. These are the people where you have to run away very quickly. Entertainers are an exception, but entertainers don't claim they know it all. They give you a light moment, a bit of entertainment, and they can be brilliant. But when people say they know it all and they do speaking only, run quickly. If you want to have excellent results, if you want to have excellent goal achievement, if you want to have excellent moments in 2023, there are exactly two components you need. Component number one is science. Component number two is experience. Science plus experience equals excellence. And very important now is it is not easy. I know that especially I'm now, and when you now say, hey, Niels, do you walk the talk? I'm now doing an MBA. On 30th of December, I filed a 28 pages long scientific paper. And believe me, when it comes to Christmas, I'm not a festive person. I'm not a religious person. I don't care about New Year's Eve. However, I can still really think about something more fun than writing a 30 pages long scientific paper at the end of the year to meet a deadline, which was on January 4th, and I wanted to be early of the deadline. I have to because I'm German. If I'm late, I lose my citizenship. Anyway, yes, I walk the talk because science always develops and it is not easy. If someone tells you it's easy to achieve, they know the shortcut, top 7 tips to become a leader, step 4 really surprised me, that nonsense. It doesn't get you anywhere. It is not easy because if it would be easy, first, there would be no talent shortage. Second, people would hoard to do the job. And third, it would not be well paid because enough people would do it, which drives down the prices because there is no talent scarcity anymore. However, we all know there is a talent scarcity and it gets worse by the minute. And why? Because some people always think there is a shortcut. And here are the news. There's not. So science plus experience equals excellence. It's not easy, sorry to say that. However, if you now want to get a step-by-step system where to start, and this is not the whole plan, but this is where to start. There are 3 areas where you have to sit down and it takes a bit of time. It's not easy. It's not quick. It's not a one-liner that you write down because some people say, I write it down and I manifest it in order with the universe. That nonsense is not going to get you anywhere. So there are 3 main areas, and it's important that you follow them in a certain order. So aspect number 1, what are your personal goals for the year? Your personal development goals. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is what are your social goals? Your circumstances, circle of friends, circle of relatives. Who do you want to get closer with? Who do you want to step away from, etc., etc. Step number 3 is anything job related, career related. So your work life. So what do you want to do in your work life? And it's important that you do it in the order I just told you: personal, social, work related. Personal, social, work. Why? Most people do it do it the other way around. And that means you say, oh, I want to achieve this at work. So so you limit your life significantly. Then you say, okay, what's left for my social life then? So I have to fit in bit here, bit there, bit there. Okay, here's a gap where I can fill something in. And after that, you say, so what's in it for me now for my personal life? There's hardly any minute left, hardly any time left, hardly any spot left in your life. And then you fill in tiny, tiny spots. And suddenly it's June of the year. Everyone is happy in summer. And you sit there and think, I'm not really happy with what's happening here. It's not satisfying. And that's because you did it the wrong way around. Personal, social, work related. Personal, social, work. This is how you set goals for the year. And it's important that you do it in that direction and in that order, because you might come to the conclusion. It's not very likely, especially when you work in a certain situation for longer. However, it might be the case that you come to the conclusion, I need a different job. I need to do something else. And then you should follow that. It doesn't mean that you quit without having a plan, because that will simply end with you running into financial problems. And that these are the worst worries you can have, or one of the worst worries you can have. You need a plan, you need to find a new job, and it might take a while, but as long as you act on it and see the development, there is a way out of the situation when the situation in which you are is not satisfying. So step number one, personal goals. What is your personal development, your goals for the year? Step number two, social aspects, your surrounding environment, basically the people you deal with every day or frequently. And then number three, work related, anything with job, career, what you want to achieve in that area. If you do it in that way, 2023 will be a lot better. And by the way, have ambitious goals. That's perfectly fine. But just plan with the fact that, look into your organization. When you look at project management, you see what can go wrong. So don't blame yourself for every little thing that doesn't go according to plan. It never goes 100% according to plan, or most likely it will not, because many people who surround you have contradicting ideas to what you want to achieve, and we cannot all achieve 100%. That's impossible. No society works in a way that we all get 100% of what we want, so there's no reason to self-blame. Just strive for excellence based on science and experience, and not the pseudo-scientific nonsense that just costs you money and doesn't get you anywhere. And of course, there's more about that. When you go to expert.nb-networks.com, just put your email address in there, because as soon as you put your emails in there, you get updates every Wednesday, free of charge, backed by science, so no motivational, inspirational chumbawamba. And of course, some people might now have a couple of questions. So where you say, well, I don't know where to start, even with your plan. What is when I have a dilemma and I don't know how to deal with it? Just drop me an email. And thank you very much for the emails I received during the last weeks and month. We are now in the 4th year of this podcast, which is amazing. Didn't expect anything of what happened recently to happen. By the way, we again, and I have to say thank you again, we again had another top ranking. We went into the top 15 in Austria. That's the highest ranking we ever had in this country, ranked number 12. I posted it on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Feel free to follow me there. Just drop me an email, nb@nb-networks.com, and then we take it from there. Write emails or just have a chat, and then we meet on Zoom or wherever you like to have, like to meet. If you, of course, have something very specific, you say, hey, we need someone for training, speaking, coaching, consulting, mentoring, or project interim management, or hey, we have an event, can you speak there or host it? Of course I can. Happy to do so. Just drop me an email. That's step number one. As soon as you have something to discuss, contact me anytime. Step number two, join the leadership letter. As I said, expert.nb-networks.com. Everything that will be announced, including scientific publications, etc., will be published right there. And the third step, and that is something that did not change from last year to this year. The most important step is step number three, apply what you learned in this podcast, because only when you apply what you heard, you will see the positive change, the positive outcomes that you are aiming for. And I know that 2023 can be incredibly challenging. Maybe some of you now sit there and you have high expectations towards you, and you still think, I don't know if I can figure it out. No worries. Many people are in the same situation, and there's help available. And I hope I could give you a bit of that help just today. Feel free to contact me anytime. So very important now, apply what you heard in this podcast in your life, in your organization, your job, your personal life, your social life, your work-related issues, aspects, organizational ideas, work-related or related to your private life. It's very important that you plan for this, because 2023 is not going to work out by itself when you just say, I just go with the flow, because what will happen is people take advantage of you and suddenly the whole year's over and you wonder, how did time fly by so quickly? And there was a lot in for others, but not much for myself. And I don't want to sit here with you and you see 2024 happening and you say, 2023 was another year where nothing was in for me. So very important, apply what you heard in this podcast. I'm always happy to help you on the way. Let me know and contact me anytime. I wish you all the best applying what you heard here in your life and your organization. And at the end of this podcast, there's only one thing left for me to say. Thank you very much for your time.